This is a picture of me as a stay-at-home daughter. In the group I grew up in, women were expected to be submissive to men in all things, from the clothes they wore, to who they associated with, to who they married, and every major life decision. Wives were to be submissive to their husbands, and little girls were to be submissive to their fathers. But then there was this in-between stage where they weren't quite sure who an adult woman who wasn't married should submit to. So they came up with this idea that adult unmarried women would continue to submit to their fathers until he gave them away in marriage to another man to submit to for the rest of her life. This was a stay-at-home daughter movement. When I look at this picture, I can feel the pressure. The pressure to be perfect, the pressure to obey, the pressure to be attractive enough to find a spouse, but not so attractive that I would cause a man to lust. The turmoil of having natural leadership abilities, but not being allowed to pursue the leadership roles I desired and knew I would be good at. As a young child, I often fantasized about running away from home. But now, as an adult young woman honing her homemaking skills, I just prayed a good man would want me. I'm Ashley Easter, and I am a cult survivor. I'm also the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called Courage 365. This is an organization that is focused on empowering all kinds of abuse survivors, including those who have left cults. This has led me to writing, speaking, coaching, and training other abuse survivor advocates. In the group I grew up in, it was a mix of independent fundamentalist Baptist and Quiverful. The Quiverful movement was made popular by guys like Doug Phillips of Vision Forum, Bill Gothard, and of course, the Duggars from the 19 Kids and Counting TV show. The Quiverful movement was all about elevating patriarchal ideals while at the same time devaluing women. It was seen as a man's greatest blessing to have a quiver full of children, so you could shoot them out into the world like arrows, so they could sink into different sectors of society to dominate the world through overpopulation with our patriarchal religious message. When you think of the word cult, what comes to your mind? Just think about that for a second. Is it walled compounds? Is it people dressed in white robes? Secret societies living off the grid? Poison Kool-Aid? All of those things can be present in a cult, but the definition of a cult goes much deeper than that. A cult is defined as a high control group with a central ideology. It often has a charismatic leader, and it is characterized by the exploitation and manipulation of its members. Cults exist on a spectrum, from overt, like the examples I just gave, to subtly dangerous, and anywhere in between. One of the world's leading cult experts, Stephen Hassan, gave us the BITE model. The BITE model is a system to help us evaluate where groups may fall on the cult spectrum. It's an extensive model, but I want to share just a little bit with you today. So each letter of the word BITE stands for a different type of control. B stands for behavioral control, and that can look like controlling clothing, hairstyles, diets, the use of sleep deprivation, and the use of rewards and punishments to make people get in line with the group's agenda. I stands for information control, and that often looks like reducing the access to outside information like TV, movies, the internet, books, news, and of course former members. On the flip side of things, they will often overwhelm you with cult propaganda, things that they have either created or endorsed. T stands for thought control. A lot of times this will look like making members internalize the group's doctrine as the ultimate truth. It can also look like the use of thought-stopping techniques such as denial or the use or misuse of prayer, chanting, and meditation. E stands for emotional control. This often looks like making a group member feel like it's always their fault if something goes wrong, and that it's never the fault of the group or the group leader. They'll often promote feelings of guilt or unworthiness and say that you can't find happiness or fulfillment outside of the group. And because of that, there's no legitimate reason to leave. And if you do try to leave, you'll often be faced with punishments or threats of punishment, like shunning or the threat of hell. Not all cults will have all of these characteristics, but all cults will have issues of control in each of these 4 categories. I want you to revisit that question that I asked you before. When you think of the word cult, now that you've heard this definition, what comes to your mind now? Maybe you're even starting to think of groups you or loved ones have interacted with. And that makes sense because any group can become a cult. Any group can devolve into a high control group that manipulates and exploits its members. A book club could become a cult. A misled AA meeting could become a cult. The church down the road could be a cult. A multi-level marketing group could be a cult. And so could a toxic workplace, a political organization, a self-help program, or a workout studio. Even families can sometimes become cults. Any group that is characterized by the manipulation and exploitation of its members could be a cult. And the reason my talk is so relevant to every single person in this room tonight is because it is possible somebody could be trying to recruit you into a cult right now. I'm going to take it a step further and say it's also possible that you could have specific vulnerabilities that would make you more likely to join a cult. Let me show you. Have you or someone you ever loved had a person close to you pass away? Have you ever moved to a new state or town to live? Have you ever stopped or started a job or school? Have you ever left a religious environment and looked for something different? Have you ever left a romantic relationship or had a close friendship dissolve? Do you care about finding meaning and purpose in your life? Do you want to improve yourself and your relationships? If you answered yes to any of these, you could be vulnerable to a cult. And the reason why is this. We are most vulnerable to cults in times of transition in our life, because that is when we are most likely to be looking for meaning, purpose, and direction. Those are all natural, innate human needs and desires, but it's also when cults like to strike. See, nobody joins a cult because they want to be harmed, manipulated, or controlled. People join cults because they are promised meaning, purpose, connection, and direction. All of the things that we're looking for in times of transition. But I can still hear you saying it. I can never fall for a cult. And I get it. But let's examine that for a moment. What kinds of people do you think join cults? People who are dumb, stupid, easily manipulated, weak-minded? That's not what the research shows. The research shows that anyone could be vulnerable to a cult, including those who are highly intelligent, highly educated, and wealthy. Turns out it doesn't matter your age, race, gender, or socioeconomic status. You see, cults make the beginning stage of recruitment so appealing that once you've joined, even when negative things start to happen, you don't believe you're in a cult. When I was in a cult, I didn't think I was in a cult. I actually used to blog about my life while I was in the cult, and people would comment saying, that kind of sounds like a cult. And I didn't believe them. It wasn't until somebody questioned me about my ideology, seemed genuinely concerned that I as a woman was not being seen as an equal, that I even started to look at things critically. It's actually a funny story because I thought they were trying to lead me astray. And I decided that I needed to debate them to show them just how wrong they were. And to be a good debater, I knew that you had to study the opposition's point of view so you could know it better than they do, so you can know what their weak points are to kick the legs out from underneath them and win the debate. Well, the debate never had to happen because the research convinced me I had been wrong and I was being manipulated. Not long after that, I left the cult through the help of my husband, who helped me escape. I left behind most of my family and community, but I found freedom and happiness on the other side. And in addition to studying cults, I've also studied what it looks like to have safe communities. And I've also created safe communities. So I want to leave you with 4 things to look for in a safe community. Number 1, it's safe to be different. You don't have to assimilate. Number 2, it's safe to ask questions. And when you do, they're honest and transparent, non-manipulative with their answers. Number 3, it's safe to disagree, and you won't be faced with shunning or shaming or attempts to indoctrinate you. And number 4, it is safe to leave whenever you want without the threat of punishment. Look, your autonomy, your individuality, the things that make you you, those are your most precious assets. Cults come with the intent to steal those so they can control you and bend you towards their agenda. So before you join a new group or go back to an old one, ask yourself this: am I free to be me here, or am I only allowed to be like